My name is Bob Lilly, and Alicia, and Kitty, Tommy. My pleasure to be up here today and reminisce some of the good times, and that's what I'm going to try to do. But Don Perkins, he never complained about your play. You graded 100% every time. You and Walt Garrison and Robert Newhouse must have all had the easiest job on the team because you always graded out at least 98%. I don't think I ever heard him get on Don Perkins but once or twice in his whole career. Seems like it was a lot though, doesn't it, Don? We did hate Mondays, didn't we, guys? Well, my first recollection of the Cowboys was when they came to Dallas. You know, I was a senior in college over in Fort Worth at TCU. And I couldn't believe not only were the Dallas Cowboys here, but there was the Dallas Texans. And they both drafted me. So I knew I was going to stay in Texas. That was quite a thrill for a guy that grew up in Throckmorton, which was 1,000 people. And I barely made the team in Throckmorton. I don't know how in the world I got a scholarship to TCU. My senior year in college was an interesting year. That was the year that Roger Maris and Mickey Mantle were shooting for the home run championship, and I happened to see them interviewing Mickey Mantle on TV one day, and I saw Mickey in his locker. It was about 10 foot wide, had his name in big letters, Mickey Mantle, had his pinstripe uniforms on the left, and it was carpeted. He had a nice big chair in his locker. He had a big cigar in his mouth. That's where I got that cigar, Alicia, when we won our first Super Bowl. That was my idea for Mickey Mantle. But anyway, that was my vision of pro football. My vision was that I'm going to get out of this dressing room at TCU and I'm going over and I'm going to have my own locker with my name on it, with my cowboy uniform in there, with the stars on the side, and I'm going to be big time. Well, my first meeting at Burnett Park, which brings up another subject. In fact, I always wanted to ask Coach Landry what he felt like when he came from Yankee Stadium to Burnett Park. I don't know how many of you, a lot of you younger guys don't know about Burnett Park, but I'll tell you about it. I came to my first meeting and I kept going around this condemned baseball stadium here in Dallas, and my Chevy, whatever it was, that the motor fell out of, and I finally found this place, and I was looking for a door to go in, and I went around and around, and there was no door. There was an opening, but there was no door. Tex, you remember, I went in there, and they had military-style lights with wire and 30-watt bulbs. You could barely see. I went into the room where I heard voices coming out of, and I heard Coach Landry's voice. I thought it was his voice anyway, and it was. And I went in just in time, and the blackboard in there was made out of green slate, real old green slate, and when you marked on it with chalk, it squeaked real bad. For those of you that bothers, and I'm one of them, you know what I mean. Well, anyway, I came in, Coach Landry introduced me, and then he progressed to put his priorities in life on that blackboard. And number one, he put God, and number two, he put family, and number three, he put football. And he never did put money in there anywhere. I don't think of all the years that I ever knew Coach Landry, money ever entered into his mind. He always told us that if we did a good job, we had faith in what we're doing, we worked hard at it, and we win, all the good things follow. And he was right about that. But then when he finished saying God, family, and football, he said, and Lilly, that'll cost you $50 next time you're late. That was his fine schedule. That's what Perk's talking about. We did not like to hear his voice because it either meant we were going to get fined or he was displeased. Now, the only fear Tex Rim and Coach Landry had about us as players back then was that we were going to find a better job outside of football, right, Tex? And in fact, when I got out of college, I had an offer to go coach for $1,000 less than I got to play with the Cowboys. And after the first year, I nearly took it. I only had a broken foot, torn up knee, and a broken thumb that rookie year. I wasn't supposed to play in this one game, and Coach Landry came up to me and he said, "We've only got 4 linemen, Bob. Looks like you're going to have to play." So they taped my legs stiff and I played. And then on Monday, he said, "Boy, that's the worst game I've ever seen any defensive end play in my life." And I'm thinking, you've already forgotten, Coach, that my knee was hurt? Remind me never to get hurt again. Right, guys? You know what I'm talking about. Well, anyway, that was the beginning. We limped along. We became winners to a certain extent. Bridesmaids, I think they called us. And then we went to Pittsburgh. Actually, we went to Pittsburgh first. Pittsburgh in 1965. We had been picked by Sports Illustrated to win the Eastern Division of the NFL. At that time, Pittsburgh and Cleveland were in our division. After the game was over, we had lost. We had now become 2-5, which meant that we had 7 games to go to win our division. Well, Coach Landry got up and he started talking and he ordered everyone out. I don't even know who all was in that room, but there's a lot of guys here that were in there. He asked everyone out but the players and the coaches. And he started talking to us. And this is, I think in my opinion, and that is my opinion, the turning point of the Dallas Cowboys. Coach Landry said, "You guys have given me 110%. He said, "You have done everything I've asked you." He said, "When I was in New York, and Vince Lombardi and I used to spend all this time studying those films, Sam," he said, "I formulated what I thought would be the offense and defense of the future, flex defense and the multiple offense." And he said, "I've let you down." And then he wept. He wept for several minutes. And we wept. And that same group of guys, that same nucleus of players, and you know who you are, a lot of you here, we found out in our gut feeling that we weren't given 100%. We weren't given 110, we weren't even given 100. And I think he touched all of us on that very day. When we came back the next week, when we started winning, we won 5 out of the next 7, went to our first little playoff game that year. 19 out of the next 20 years, the Cowboys were winners. Actually, 20 years in a row, they were winners. 19 out of the next 20 in the playoffs. So Coach Landry was right. His priorities in life were right. His belief in his system. The only problem he had was with us players. That was encouraging us and teaching us to have faith in what he was trying to teach us. He told me one time, he said, "Bob, you could play 11-man line if you had faith in it, you guys, and win." He said, "But you can play the flex defense with faith and win a lot more often." And that's the truth. And it proved itself out over a long period of time. But I think the main thing about Coach Landry, and I never could call him Tom. I can occasionally, but I just had to look up to him and call him Coach, because he was my coach. He was like my second father. I will tell you that. I know he was to many of you. He imparted principles and integrity and character in us that we probably lost when we went to college. And he kept doing it. He never stopped. I never saw anything like it. I thought when I went to that first meeting and he told me of his priorities, he was kidding. I really did. I couldn't believe that anybody would have their priorities in that order, because I was green out of college. When I quit football and was 35 years old, I realized that his priorities in life were the priorities that I wanted for my life. And I know many of my peers have done the same. And if it hadn't been for Coach Landry, I don't know that my son, Bob Jr., and my other children would be sitting here today. I don't know what would have happened to them, because I tried, after I finally grew up, to impart those same values to my children. So we are the legacy. These guys up here, you fellows out there, all the people that Coach Landry came in contact with, we are the legacy of Coach Landry. And we are going to spread that to our children and to our nation. Thank you.